there. Welcome to the Graced Health Podcast, your source for aging strong in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. My name is Amy Connell. I'm a weight neutral certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who loves walks with friends, chocolate, and Jesus. Whether you're looking to grow stronger as you age, nourish your body, mind, and spirit, or fit all the pieces of your health together to holistically thrive, this is the place for women over 40. I am here to guide you in the areas I can and bring on experts in the areas I'm still learning. And of course, we cover it all in a whole lot of grace. This is a recap of our season focusing on intuitive eating. As I shared at the beginning of 2024, this is an intuitive eating focused show. It's also grace-filled and Christ-centered. And I thought it would be appropriate to bring on some of my colleagues of other Christ-centered women who have an intuitive eating focus in their practices. Many of them are registered dietitians. We also have some health coaches and personal trainers. And I wanted to dissect each individual principle so we're kind of all on the same page. Now, if you're like me, your summer has been a little off. Your routine may not have included listening to the Graced Health Podcast every week. And if so, completely understandable. I have been off with a lot of different things as well. So I wanted to provide a wrap up of highlights from each individual, just incredible woman who was on the show this season. One of the fun things about being a podcaster is getting to meet and connect with other people and hearing them say similar things to other guests who were on the show for completely different reasons, but they're still saying very similar things. That was so fun for me to hear and to witness during this season. The other thing I heard several times that I so appreciated was this concept that intuitive eating is not eat whatever you want, whenever you want. It's all woo-woo. I mean, la-di-da-di, whatever. It's not that. In fact, it was Kristin Williams who said this, and I just love it. She said, I care very much about health or I wouldn't be in the field, but I do think it's important to make distinction. What is mindfulness and what is obsession? I think that is a great point to start with because every single person who joined me this series does care about our health, but they care about it from a holistic one and particularly from our spiritual one, where we are not creating idols out of food. We are not dishonoring our body. Kristen Schmidt talked a lot about stewarding our body. That might be my new favorite word from this season. And so I think a lot was cleared up during this season. What I'm going to do is share a few highlights from each of my 10 guests. They're about a minute to a minute and a half long. I tried really hard to keep them short, but as you know, brevity is not my strong suit if you've been listening for a while. And so keeping their words brief was difficult for me as well. But I hope this gives you a good taste of these conversations. And then, of course, go back and listen. You will hear a little bit of choppiness. You'll hear a little bit of me, maybe nodding or saying something in agreement, or you might hear me kind of cut in with laughing in the background. But just know that this is part of an overall conversation. If something they say strikes a chord or makes you interested and you did not hear the conversation, or maybe you did and you just want a refresher, go back and listen to those episodes. I do have the contact information for all 10 of these guests in the show notes. You can go check them out, connect with them. And if you do, by the way, just say, hey, I heard you on the Graced Health Podcast and loved what you had to say. Personally, I love it when people discover the work that we're doing over here at Graced Health and send me a little note. So that will be just a fun little surprise for them. Okay, let's start with the first highlight from registered dietitian Tracy Brown on Principle 1, Reject the Diet Mentality.
If dieting had to stand up to the same scrutiny as medications, they would not be allowed for public consumption. And as far as our body cells are concerned, dieting is famine. You can't scare your body into being a body that you want.
Right.
You've got to get yourself into physiologic safety for your body to probably improve health. And you have to have sustainable health behaviors that don't actually cause you more stress long term. Being really honest with yourself, acknowledging how dieting has impacted your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Just take some time to acknowledge that you did the best you could with the information you had and the environment you were in, and nobody offered you different alternatives. Thank the Lord, you have other options now. So we'll keep it that.
Mm-hmm. Victoria Yates joined us for Principle 2, Honor Your Hunger. Victoria is a registered nurse. She's a certified health coach and certified intuitive eating and body image coach for women.
Hunger is a gift, and honoring our hunger is a gift that we have, like this privilege of, being hungry. We want to work towards eating more with those early hunger cues and really just not being afraid to even get it wrong. I really don't think there's no getting it wrong. I think what trips people up a lot of times is they get so concerned with doing it wrong. And I mean, that's how we learn. I think intuitive eating, a lot of people are like, oh, this is all just like woo and like feelings. And it's like, no, this is science-based. And so for me, at least, it helps to know like, oh yeah, of course I'm hungry right now. It's been X number of time. Mm-hmm. Like this is hunger. This is real. I think the biggest thing to remember would be just to see our hunger as a gift and to not be afraid of it, not be afraid of honoring our hunger, and really just looking at it as a way that we can get to know our bodies that God created a little bit better.
Next up, for Principle 3, Make Peace with Food, we had registered dietitian Kristen Bunger.
Diet culture is never going to surrender. And so for the war to be over, we have to surrender. We have to give up the battle so that we can actually win the war. Slow and steady wins the race every time. And we have to start with the things that are the least scary. And what happens is all of those what ifs that are so demoralizing and just utterly terrifying, those begin to melt away as we do the scary things and we see that nothing horrible is happening. So do the hard thing with the easy thing and let that be, kind of your gateway into some of those neural pathways that just seem so impossible to get to, but they're not impossible. And that's the most fun part about all of this, is that it's not impossible. As you continue to surrender and win these battles, the war is going to be won, and you are not going to be completely overtaken by your desire for food, because as we know, it's all about the food, and it's not about the food at all. And so as we manage and continue to address our issues with food, what is actually going to happen is the grace and mercy of the Holy Spirit can begin to do a work in us where we really actually need it the most.
Next up, we had registered dietitian Jessica Lauren Newby talking about Principle 5, Discover the Satisfaction Factor.
When you eat what you really want and an environment that is inviting, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. So I think about how a meal that is truly satisfying, that at the end of it, that's the essence. We're going to feel content. We're going to feel at ease. There's not any anxiety around it. And we're going to feel full. We're going to feel satisfied with the entirety of it. I think it's important to remember as well, I want to make this clear up front, that not every meal is going to be the most satisfactory experience. And we can get lost in seeking that to a fault. We have so many instances in Scripture where God is directing us towards enjoying things. So I think about in the Psalms where he said, taste and see that the Lord is good. I don't think he would have used that word picture if tasting and seeing and enjoying something that is good was wrong. I think it's really hard pulling out of diet culture and shifting into this mindset where I can enjoy things because I've been taught that if it's enjoyable, it's therefore wrong. It must not be on the plan. It must not be allowable because, my goodness, this tastes really good.
For Principle 6, Feel Your Fullness, we were joined by Laura Acuna, who is a speaker, author, Bible teacher, podcast host, and life coach.
I walked around like a head without a body for decades. And so I had to learn to reconnect to my body and trust what it was telling me. In the very beginning, a dietitian said to me, "What is hunger, Laura?" And I said, "Hunger's when you have to eat. You absolutely have to eat. You're just dying to put something in your mouth." And she said, "No, Laura, that's starving." She said, "What's full?" And I said, "When you're stuffed and you can't eat another bite." And she said, "No, that's stuffed for real. Full is satiated. It's a calming feeling. When I'm satiated and calm, I'm not obsessing about food anymore." God made our bodies to change. They are not our enemy. And the natural things that we go through as women are for a reason. And so we need to still trust our bodies even when they're out of whack. It won't be forever. Your body will tell you what it needs. And it is a journey. And everything with God is. He puts us through a process because he wants us to be dependent on him. And if he fixed us in an instant, we'd forget him in a second. Trust your body and trust your God. Trust him.
Amen.
He created you and he knows how to heal you. Only he can fix what he's created.
For Principle 7, cope with your emotions with kindness, we were joined by registered dietitian Brittany Wilson.
Coping with your emotions with kindness is learning how to work through emotions without using food in an unhealthy way. And I'm sure we'll be digging deeper into this, but food can be tied to our emotions in healthy ways. But really, we want to learn how to work through emotions in ways that actually resolve our problems or the things we're feeling rather than just stuffing it or hiding it or avoiding it using food. So really the real problem is not the food. It's never really the food. It's maybe the lacking of boundaries that were there in the first place that maybe caused overcommitment of schedule or conversations with friends that maybe aren't healthy because there were lacking boundaries or family or whatever that looks like. You can meet people where they're at and be able to speak life and truth into them. And I just think that's the positive emotional place that we can have with food. Jesus meets you in every meal that you eat, and he made that food to be enjoyed and to enjoy that with you. And so the emotions that you have, they're not too big for God. They're not too hard for God. He cares about them. But every time that we are with him, we are able to experience his love, his joy, his peace. And like that is the bread of life. Like his presence is the bread of life. And it's something we can rejoice in.
For Principle 8, respect your body, Kristen Schmidt joined us. Kristen is a certified health coach and has 2 degrees, one in kinesiology and one in human nutrition.
You are physically beautiful because God can't make ugly things. God is the author of beauty. And that beauty can't be changed. It can't be added to. It can't be taken away from. It is a divine beauty that first communicated to Adam that Eve was also the Imago Dei. So our divine beauty is different than worldly beauty because worldly beauty changes all the time, but divine beauty doesn't. The body stops being a gift the moment we turn it into an object. And diet culture does a really good job of turning the body into an object, and we can't respect the body fully when we're treating it as such. If you only feel worthy in your body when it meets worldly standards for beauty, at the end of the day, you're never, ever going to feel satisfied with your body. And every single woman who is struggling with body image, it's not that you want to have this amazing body as much as you just want to feel unconditionally loved. Because we were all made by love. We were all made by God, who is love, for love. A temple is a place of worship. And so are you using your body to worship diet culture and worldly standards of beauty, or are you using it to worship God? We need to be pursuing health from heaven's perspective, which means we should actually only prioritize health to the extent that it serves God better. Anything more, anything past that is just an idol. It's going to leave you fearful. It's going to leave you restless. And ironically, it actually leaves you less healthy.
Kasey Shuler joined us for Principle 9 exercise and Feel the Difference. Kasey is a certified personal trainer and co-founder of the Joyful Health Collective.
Forget militant exercise, just get active and feel the difference. Shift your focus to how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie burning effect of exercise. Exercise is really just this tiny little box under the umbrella of movement. And so if we can break that open, then the possibilities are so much more joyful. If the joy of the Lord is our strength, it's really cool how you talk about the benefits of exercise, and when we do something like a squat and we feel the strength in our legs, our brain is saying, I'm doing this, I feel strong, and it's connected to our identity. Joy is the expression of grace. So if you want to adopt a joyful movement habit, to be able to just inhale grace and exhale joy, let that tune into your breath, be able to tune into your body and the Lord, and just continue that movement.
And finally, for Principle 10, Gentle Nutrition, registered dietitian, nutritionist Liesel Maddox joined us to round things out.
Really, the definition of gentle nutrition in intuitive eating is that you don't have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You're not going to get a nutrition deficiency or suddenly become, quote, unhealthy, however we're defining that, from one meal, one day of eating, even 1 week of eating. Sometimes, maybe one vacation's worth of eating. And that it's really more about kind of our overall, what I like to call the big picture, bird's eye view of our nutrition intake. Intuitive eating is not simply eating whatever, whenever, however much we want, with no regard to how our bodies feel. Eating intuitively and practicing gentle nutrition works with any sort of health and medical condition, with very, very few exceptions. This is not the quick fix, false promises of diet culture. This is the really slow and steady progress kind of journey in getting to know your body's God-given intuitive signals again, in doing all of the unlearning that it takes to rip away the false beliefs and rules from diet culture, and giving yourself just a ton of grace on this healing journey. Be patient with yourself in the process and trust that over time, the more you keep practicing, the unconditional permission to eat and making peace with food, not going back to diets, that's what's going to make it easier to make those gentle nutrition choices at times.
I hope this was a season that was beneficial to you, that may have opened your eyes to some things or confirmed others that you just knew in your gut, and that's why you're here. Of course, I don't expect you to be fully on board with this if that's not your timing, but I do ask that you stick around. We're going to have a lot of different conversations coming up in the next season where this is the foundation. I think I publicly said back in January that, going forward, we are weight neutral. We are intuitive eating focused. But again, that doesn't mean that we don't care about the foods that God has given us and stewarding our bodies well. I have an episode that, I kid you not, I have been wanting to do for over a year on protein. I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions and conversations. And so I'm trying to discuss those. That will be coming up soon. I will be talking some about supplements. I have some wonderful conversations with other women who are here to help us in our various areas of our health. Some of it's spiritual, some of it's mental health, some of it is physical health. We're going to be talking about meal planning and prepping with a mentor of mine. So this is a really special conversation. Come back, join us. Again, you don't have to be fully on board with all of this. Just be willing to listen and, be curious and explore thinking differently than what we grew up with. I'm so glad you're here. I do not take lightly that you have shared your time with me today. There are literally millions of podcasts out there, and I am not huge. I am not well known, or the Graced Health is not well known. I mean, neither am I really, but I am so grateful that we can spend this time together. And also, if you have not yet joined the Graced Health Community Facebook group, head over there. In the month of September, I am going to have a 5-day challenge called Insta Care. And so what this is 5 minutes of just caring for ourselves, either through stretching or foam rolling or breathing, just kind of caring for our body in a beneficial way rather than scrolling Instagram. So I hope you appreciate the play on words. I was very proud of myself for coming up with that. So 5-day challenge in September 24. If you are listening to this live, if not, you can always go over there and join that community. Okay, that's all for today. Go out there and have a graced day. Hey, I'm so glad you've tuned in today. Thank you. A quick note before we go. This podcast has over 400 episodes and is on a journey of growth and evolution, just like all of us. Some episodes before January 2024 may contain references to diet culture or perspectives that don't fully align with our current approach to health and wellness from a weight-neutral, intuitive eating perspective. So, listen with a discerning ear, take what serves you, and leave the rest. Thanks for understanding and for growing with us on this journey.